Okay, you need to start a mailing list if you're brand new, or keep it up. Don't do it alone. We've already talked about that, and we'll talk about that more later. Form committees. This group back here, you're one reunion, aren't you? Oh, no, you two aren't. But are you a committee? Is this the committee who's here, or just all parts of? Oh, I thought there were 4 of you at the dinner table last night that were.
Well, we're friends. So.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm sorry. I thought that was all one reunion.
Family.
Okay, okay. The committee idea, I think, if you have committees at work, or committees or volunteer organizations, sometimes you say, I don't want one more committee meeting. But in the next issue of the magazine, there's going to be a story about a family where I cut 2 of these out, but 3 times in the report that the man wrote was the committee meetings were so much fun, and the dinners afterwards were the best I've ever eaten. So, if you make the committee, and I've also heard people say the committee meetings were just as much fun as the reunion. So people can get into that, and I think that, and I don't just think, I know that people talk about how if the reunion is coming to their city, they actually get to know their relatives who live in the general area better because of the committee meetings that they've had leading up to the reunion. Okay, delegating is something we're already talking about. Get as many people involved in this as you possibly can, and try to get people involved using their own skills, what they love to do, because you're certainly going to have a much better outcome if someone agrees to do something that you know they do well, that they like to do, you know they're going to be more likely to follow up. Okay, I don't know that opening a checking account is as easy as it once was. Reunions used to be able to do this nice, I'm sorry, I've been talking about it in the past. But since 9/11, there are some banking rules that make this a little less, not quite as easy. But one of the reasons that you should have a checking account is because it keeps some clarity in the money. When you start collecting money for the reunion, if you say, for example, you're going to charge everybody who's coming $10. Everybody, whether it's a baby or an adult or whatever, okay? But let's just say $10. And this may be, this is not unrealistic. When you get to the reunion, and most reunions have a business meeting of some kind, and one of the major things you do at the business meeting is talk about, how much money this cost and how much money you have left over, and that money may be shifted to start the next reunion. Someone inevitably is going to stand up and say, what'd you do with my $10? Now, you just told them that the banquet cost this much, and the meeting cost this much, and the tour cost this much, and that person is going to want to know what you did with his or her $10. That's one reason why having a checking account is good. That's also a good reason why you want to have good records and probably a treasurer so that person can, and I hate to say this because most family reunions do use the skills of the people in their family. So do you want to use a bookkeeper or an accountant? Though those people usually expect to be asked to do that. It's the same with asking the teachers to do the children's activities. There are certain things that just sort of fall to certain family members, and most of them agree to do it, and most of them enjoy doing it. But as far as the money is concerned, no matter what you charge for the reunion, whether it's a free will offering or whether it's actually, a fee that's going to cover the cost of all these things that you're doing, someone is going to ask you, where did my money go? And that's why accurate records are going to be able to say, this is where it went. Okay. When we talk about scouting locations, if you've chosen Lake County, and now you're going to be looking at what hotel you're going to be at, or what resort, or what facility. It is a very good idea to have someone go in and look ahead of time. Frequently the CVB can tell you the condition of the hotel or the resort or whatever you're looking at. But a year doesn't go by that I don't hear from some families, and it's not always just one, where they say, Oh, they failed to mention that they were going to be remodeling when we got there. Now, they usually say, we still had a good time, but we had to crawl over the construction to get from one place to another. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that hotels are trying to deceive people, but sometimes if a person, someone from your family has been there, they can at least tell you what the hotel is like, and someone, you have a better selection if people have actually looked it over. Okay, about a year ahead of time, well, choosing your location and setting your date sort of go together. Because sometimes you have to choose your date in order to get a location. Sometimes you choose the location and then you decide what the date is going to be. These are sort of, that's a back and forth thing, which thing you do first. But you do want to set your date early because you're going to have to let people know when the reunion is going to be. And a lot of family members, one, have to save the money to come. And two, people still have to ask for time off well in advance. That's way past me. I take time off whenever I want, whenever I don't have a deadline. But people still do have to ask time off. When you choose your location and when you're doing this meeting at your reunion, you want to talk about, once you get started, and since most of you have already been doing your reunions, you have some set way of choosing your location for your next reunion. People volunteering, or some families, because there are large concentrations, let's say in 5 different cities or 5 different areas, they may move around and you know that you're going to get the reunion every 5th year. But oftentimes announcing the selection at one reunion will save you a mailing, will save you the hassle of getting people to save the date because you've already stated it there. There is going to be a discussion sometime, I think today, about the hotel contracts, which I implore you to listen to very carefully because there are clauses in contracts that reunion planners don't always get, don't always understand, and they can really come back to bite you in the butt. You know, when I hear that, I figure people have had experience with that, where they've had a problem with being responsible for things that they didn't realize. So that you have to listen carefully to. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on that. But again, this is the kind of thing I hear where people say, well, I didn't really know it. I think all of us have gotten a little bit immune to contracts that we sign, and we don't read every word. I'm guilty. And this is certainly one where you do have to read every word. And ask questions, by all means. Early decisions also can ensure better prices, exactly what you want. I talked to somebody recently who said, well, they gave me the price and it was still a year out, and I said, is that the best you can do? And I thought, now is that the best you can do? What a great line. And for those of you who have hotels here, if some of these people come to you and you give them a proposal and a quote, and they come back to you and say, is that the best you can do? Oftentimes it isn't. So just keep pushing. Sorry, hotels. But I'm here to take care of the reunion organizations. Okay, a year ahead, you should send out save the date cards. You should organize how you're going to be communicating with your family. I mean, there are all these possibilities now. We're reading about Facebook and MySpace pages and websites for family reunions where they do a lot of their communicating online. I feel sorry for people who are outside of that realm at this point. It certainly has overtaken my life, like a lot of other people's. Particularly now with Facebook and MySpace, and oh my God, I mean, there's no time for anything else. So it's just, there are all these various ways of communicating that, and I would say that if you have a problem with younger people coming to your reunion, you will be remiss not having a Facebook page or having a website or having these forms of communication that kids really do glom onto. It'll make it a lot easier. They'll see you as part of their lives, even though it may not be you in charge of the internet stuff that you're doing.